All right. Well, welcome to the Arctos searching training. So I'm going to walk you through searching catalog records today. But I do want to point out that there are other ways to search Arctos. So if you navigate, oh wait, sorry, I'm going to share my screen. I can see it. All right. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Okay, great. Um, so searching in Arctos. So when you do log in, you'll come to this sort of basic screen. But again, this is going to be searching catalog records. So I want to point out that there are other searches in Arctos that I won't go over today, but these get at a lot more specific elements of Arctos that you actually can query through the catalog record screen, but it's going to have a high level of specificity. So if you're searching for media, for instance, you can look on filter by license or relationship to specific objects. Whereas on the main search, you can kind of get at media in a more basic way. So when you log into Arctos, you'll come to this default search screen. And this is really akin to a simple search. So we'll start here and then I'll show you how to get more advanced with your searching. But I do want to point out that I'm logged in under my operator name right now. So when I search, I'm only going to be searching to the collections, through the collections that I have access to. So if you were interested in searching, across Arctos, doing some almost as a public user, I suggest making a secondary login. So I have one that's called eBreaker Public. And I use that when I'm just kind of searching across Arctos, maybe sometimes I like to look at other institutions' records to see, how they're structuring a tissue record, for instance. So right now I'm logged in and will just be filtering on my own level of access. So this is the search form, and so along the left side are kind of the basic data blocks. And then sort of kind of going over the anatomy of this form, anything that you see in blue hypertext, you can click on to get the definition of the field. And sometimes there'll be little hints or suggestions. And then there's always going to be um, a way to get to the documentation on our website. And then any of these fields that have controlled vocabulary will have these define buttons. And so there, if you click that, you'll be able to read the definitions. Can you see this? It's a pop-up, so sometimes you can't see those windows. Um, and again, if you can also get at the control vocabulary by clicking on the hypertext as well. Oh, geez. Apologies. I get clicky and uh, click out of Arctos. Sorry. Okay. So if we do a search, you can search by collection. So when I pull up this menu, these are all the collections that I personally have access to. So of course you can select which collection you want. But let's say I want to search more than just one collection. So this is where this choose button comes in handy. And here I'll be able to toggle on exactly the collections that I'd like to search. So while I have access to all these collections, I only directly manage these collections. So sometimes I might want to search across my collections if I'm doing an annual report to see, how many specimens we have from different countries or things like that. And you can click these buttons at the top to either use the options I've selected or clear the form again. Another way you can use this form is by collection code or by collection. And so this is nice too. So if I wanted to search across mammal collections, it will just automatically toggle those on for me. And then similarly, I can search by institution. So right now I have access to a couple of different institutions. So I'm just going to clear that form. But let's say I'm interested in searching my herp collection. Then we get to the catalog number field, and there's a few ways to use this field. So of course I can, call up a specific number. Oh, do you see? Little. And so I didn't specify what collections. So you see it's just pulling up across my different collections. I can also put a comma in there if I'd like to just call up, a few numbers like so. I can also search a range of specimens. So we'll do through 5277. So you can search a range, and then you can also grab, if you have a spreadsheet with catalog numbers, if you pull up the spreadsheet, you can highlight that column of catalog numbers. Uh, sorry. Um, Copy and paste into the catalog number field here. So these will be essentially tab delimited, and I can search those records that way. So a few ways to do that. And then going to the next text block, identifications. Sorry, I just want to delete all these. So this first field right here accepts sort of a broad range of values. So I can type in a scientific name. It will take common names as well. If you had, anthro collections or minerals or something that's not going to be Linnaean terms, you can type in the object name. So like parka, for instance, or chair. This will take any sort of classification level. So you could enter kingdom level or phylum level. Whereas this identification field is going to be searching on the exact identification associated with your record. And then there are also these nice modifiers. I often, probably 99% of the time, just use this generic field, but today I'll use this field so that I know I'm going to be doing a large search. So this will probably call up the records a little bit faster. Next in the catalog record block, we have access to just a few attributes here. So agents. So agents in Arctos are people or organizations. And there's a few different agent types. So you can also specify, if you're looking for collectors or preparators or whatnot. You can filter by different media options, as well as type status that refers to publications. So, in science, we've got very specific types of types. Often voucher is the generic term we use for something that's just been cited in a paper. We also can use referral if it's an unjuried paper or book article, basis of illustration, or you can just leave the default as any or any type. And then next is parts. So parts, this is going to search across multiple part fields in Arctos. So the parts field specifically would be what object type it is. Is it an object? Is it a whole organism? Is it a skeleton? As well as part attributes and part remarks. So for instance, I manage tissues, and so my part might be tissue, but I often store what tissue it is in the part remarks. So I might say liver or heart. So if I just enter heart, it's going to search across kind of all those related fields. Event, in this basic search, we just have access to verbatim date. So you can put a year in there. And then in the place block, we've got sort of generic place terms. So this, again, will allow you to put anything, and you can add more specificity using this drop-down menu, but it's not necessary. I'm going to do a pretty large search of the United States, and then the specific locality text string will be anything sort of below county level or that third administrative unit. So country, or continent, country, state, county, anything below that. So if I do this search, so I've got herp, Aspidoscelis, whiptail lizards, and then United States, and I submit that query. It's running that search, and it comes up with about 7,000 records. And so just to point out a couple of things on this results table. So there is a record limit. So right now it's 500,000. So I'm nowhere near exceeding that. But if you are doing a really large search, or maybe once we get into advanced searching and you're searching across 18 different parameters, you might be approaching this record limit, or that record limit actually might get smaller. And there are ways to, if you're running into timeout errors or anything, there's a way to request data using a separate form. And this will basically perform an asynchronous search. So if you've ever searched iDigBio or GBIF where you do a really large search, you just request the data. This is going to give you a link to enter a GitHub request for this data, and you'll get it, same day, but just not in real time. But this table comes up, and so I can sort using these little carets. So this is just going to do basic alphabetical or numeric search or sorts. So I can see, I've got material from Arizona down to Utah. And then I can also control how many entries are displayed. So right now it's defaulting at 50, and then I can just page through those results. That said, this is a pretty large data set, 7,000 records. I'm not really able to get a sense of things. And so one tool I want to point out that's very useful is called the Summarize Results tool. And so if I go on to this form, I can actually filter my records a little bit. So let's say I'm just curious, how many states are represented. I can just highlight that and click summarize and see that my 7,000 records are now in 20 rows. So I have, it looks like 19 states because 14 records have no geography associated with them. And then I can sort, I have only one record in Florida. And then of course, most of my materials in Colorado and the Four Corners, which makes sense. I can do similarly summarize, all the IDs so I can see exactly how many species I have in the collection. So this tool is really nice just to give a sense. Of course, I could download those records and do the same sort of sorting, but this you can do in the Arctos application. And it's really nice just for reporting statistics too. And then you can highlight multiple parameters at once. So let's just go back to state. So if I just push control, another one that's nice is link to records. And if I summarize those, now I've got links. So if I want to sort this, let's do identified as, and let's see what I have the most of. So actually we'll do, what do I have the most of? So I have the most, this is Western whiptail in Colorado. And so if I click open, that's going to then do a search on these exact records and then pull up those 663 specimens. And then I can navigate to any one of those records. And I just want to point out, if you're not as familiar with Arctos, those major data blocks are listed here, and you can jump to any of those by clicking, you can navigate to any of those data blocks by clicking these buttons. And that's how you're going to edit different pieces of the record. But so scrolling down, you'll see these should look familiar from the search page, essentially. So the summary tool is really useful. Another really useful tool that I often use in the search is this Berkeley Mapper tool. So this is just another way to visualize the records, not in table form. And so it's actually going to map my records. And so this is nice if you want to just take a screen grab and put that figure in a presentation or paper or whatnot, a report. But if you haven't used Berkeley Mapper, you can see that it's actually mapping 3,000 records. And if you remember, my search almost had 7,000. So it's only taking those geo-referenced records and mapping them. But I can click on any of these dots, and then it's going to pull up the associated records. And it's just one more way to navigate again to those records dynamically. And you can also change the look of this a little bit and use place marks if you prefer that look. So a nice tool. And so those are kind of the basic tools I want to show for a basic search. So obviously these are pretty limited parameters. This is meant to not overwhelm people, but we can get a lot more advanced. And so I'm going to clear this form. So if we go to this toolbar up here, customize search and results, I'm going to point out these other presets. So again, we were just in the default preset, but there are other ones that sort of fall along discipline lines. So For instance, the paleo preset looks a little bit different. Um, and you can see that mainly the biggest difference is that there are part attributes showing. And so one thing the paleo community really wanted was these part attributes, and that's, I think, primarily for preservation. So it can kind of show the preservation and preparation method history for different for fossil material, as well as tooth abbreviation. So in the vertebrate paleo community, this will specify, is this a molar or premolar and which number, which tooth number it is. And then you can see the place data block is really built out for the paleo preset. So it's got things like age, a million years ago, chronostratigraphy, and then a lot of locality attributes. So if I click on this menu, you'll see a lot of the sort of chrono and lithostratigraphy elements that you can search across, township section range, the TRS data you can do. So things that are going to be sort of more relevant for paleo collections. And so you can do these kind of multi-attribute searches. Another example is, if you go to the art preset, it's going to have things like, subject matter and culture of origin and portfolio. So things that are going to be more relevant to that community. And so I'm just going to show you, I typically do the advanced bio geo search. And so just to give you a sense of how built out an advanced search can look and really how powerful Arctos searches can be, you see these data blocks are getting, a lot more detailed. And so we have the default so that we don't overwhelm people with all the things that you can search on. But this does really allow you to do really, multi-parameter, really advanced multi-parameter searching. So I'm not going to go over all of these fields. Obviously some of these are more intuitive than others, but I'll go over a few. So up in identifiers, now you see not only can you search on catalog number, but you can enter the GUID. You can also just enter any identifier. So that could be things like a previous catalog number or a collector number or a field number. And then we have pretty advanced identifier metadata that you can also search across. So for instance, there's a lot of different identifier types in Arctos. So some that are institution specific, some that are kind of generic, but that a lot of collections might use, like field number and collector number, preparator number. And things like national park numbers, like NPS numbers, a lot of collections might have might reposit that sort of material. Issued by is also really powerful. So, if you have a collector that's donated a lot of material, you can call up their name. I'm going to do actually a search on NCBI. So this is, essentially going to, if I submit this query, it's going to call up all my records that have GenBank links. So if I click on a record, I'll see, issued by NCBI or GenBank, and then I can navigate to GenBank and actually look at that sequence information. So just a nice way to search not only the actual, number string, but also maybe on who issued the identifier. And also this references is a really nice feature. So this is showing all the relationships between records. So let's say I want to look at parent of and see, what records I have actual parent offspring relationships. So this is a Fer-de-Lance. So this lovely snake was the parent of 5 different offspring. And so I can easily navigate to those child records and see that these are offspring of the parent record and then they're siblings of one another. So just another way to call up records. X that out there. Identifications, we've got sort of the 2 fields we saw before, and then we've got all of the sort of the rankings that you can search on. Specifically, catalog record, we see a lot more attributes. So this is the long list of attributes associated with records in Arctos, and this isn't filtered by, it's not limited to just the bio geo collection. So this is really all the attributes that are available. So by and large, it's going to be intends to be biological attributes, but there are things like NAGPRA category and provenience and portfolio. So this is pulling in all the possible attributes that one could search on. So, and you're able to, search across many at once. And a lot of these do have dependencies. So for instance, let me do examined for. So I know that you can examine things for viruses. So if I want to look up hantavirus, this is a controlled vocabulary. So once I start typing it, it's going to pre-populate that value. So this is again where looking at these code table terms is very useful. So you can read all the definitions available and even navigate to some of those attribute value code tables too to see what options are possible. And just like the identifiers, you can also search on metadata associated with attributes. So say you have a preparator that you're interested in looking at. That might be, you could have measurement data over here you're looking up and then specify the preparator name. So it can get highly specific. I think most of these are fairly straightforward catalog item types. So you can specify if you're only looking for fossils versus preserved specimens versus observations, projects, which probably will be another training, but you can look up projects in Arctos. Parts just gets a little bit more detailed as well. So things you can look up and filter by are disposition. And this is really useful if you want to just quickly see, what material is on loan currently or what's been, deaccessioned or what's on exhibit. So ways to filter up via that. You can also indicate that you only want to see records that have tissue available. And then this event block is quite a bit more built out in the advanced search. So again, you can specify the event type, was it a collection or was it an observation? What's the source? Was this material, captive zoo animal versus a wild type collection? You can filter by collecting method or habitat. These are free text fields. Begin and end date are very common searches that I like to do. So, you can search within a specific year or a range, a date range, maybe a field season, or maybe a series of 10 years. So in that case, if you're looking for 1876, you can just do the year, or you can, fully do this to 1900. So you can specify a date range like that. Sorry. And then there's a lot of the event attributes are going to be the environmental conditions, the temporal environmental conditions, a lot of weather, and then a lot of the vessel and dive and cruise attributes associated with a lot of marine sampling. And then the place stack you can see is getting a lot bigger as well. So we see a lot of those fields that I already kind of reviewed. But then we see this map feature. So let me just, we'll search on the map, but I want to constrain it a little bit. So we'll look up herps that maybe have media. I'll just say any media. So we just did a big project digitizing our Mesoamerican collection. So the map is nice because, obviously you can say, you can do a text search on, a specific state or county or locality string, but this is really nice for searching regions. So, or marine localities that are kind of smaller than an entire ocean. But so for this project, we did a lot of imaging of material from Mexico and Central America. So I'm just going to highlight this entire region or approximately. But I also use this for Four Corners a lot as well. And so it's going to do a search within that within that region. And the nice thing about this feature too is that Arctos is using spatial data. And so these aren't necessarily georeferenced records, but because they say, this is a herb from Honduras, it's basically using that Gadam thesaurus and essentially making it mappable. By attaching that record to a specific polygon. So now you can see I brought up 703 records, and these all have attached media. So you can see that the layout of these results are a little bit different than the simple search. And so I can kind of browse my media pretty easily, which is nice. So that's kind of the bones of a advanced search. And now I'm going to show you how you can actually customize this entire form to exactly how you want to set up your searches. So let me just clear this form. So when I go on this menu, you'll notice this My Profiles option. And so I've actually set up a search called UCM Typical. So this is kind of a form that I created for myself. These are the fields that I tend to use. I don't really want to see more clogging up the screen. So this is kind of my customized search. I also have one that's a crazy search that's just show all, where I just have every field available if I ever want to search that. But the way that you create these customized searches is you use this customize option, customize or manage profile. And what you'll do is you'll use a profile to kind of seed this custom search. So let's say, so if you're a paleo collection, let's say, yeah, I want to start with the paleo preset that kind of has what I want to search on, but I want to add some things. Maybe I want to take some things off of that form. So on the left, these columns are what are going to be your search fields, whereas on the right, these columns are going to be what's going to show up in your search results table. It's also going to be not only that search results table, but that's where you're downloading your results from. So it's actually going to be how your spreadsheet will be formatted, as well as if you ever use that summarize results tool, it's going to be all the fields that are available in that summarize results. So this allows you to kind of show what is getting displayed. So this little eye is just basically when you click it, it shows what the definition is of these different fields. And you can also click if you want to use these categories. So let's say you want you're interested in the identifiers, but maybe you don't want everything. So you can click basic, and it's just going to toggle on the basic fields. And if you want to just X out of identifiers altogether, you'll click that. So again, click basic, it's going to highlight sort of the basic levels. So let's just toggle some of these things on. So if you wanted to add something, like let's say it's really important for you to be able to search on family and order, you can add those. Maybe you want to be able to search on loan number. You can search on loans through a totally different form, but maybe you want to get at that through your main search screen. You can add that. So essentially, you'll just kind of turn on and off whatever you'd like. Let's do ocean. And so that's how I'm going to customize that form. And then I'm going to customize the results. So right now, this is kind of how the current results are. Let's say I don't want locality name for whatever reason. I did just toggle on, so I want order and family. So I'm going to make sure that I'm mimicking that here. I can also drag and drop the order of how these appear. So right now, I'm going to actually have order come first, then family show up in that table in this arrangement. What did I say? Ocean. So you can kind of mirror these things, and you don't have to. So you can actually have, like, let's say you want, let's see. Let's say that you want, I'm gonna try to think, verbatim locality to appear in your results. You don't have to have it in the search form. It will just display in the results only. and year collected. This is a big one I like to always add to my results. So maybe not as important for paleo, but important for me. So this is just an example. You don't have to move these up. I'm just moving them to the top. If you keep them toggled down here, they're just going to appear on your table in the order that you've checked them on or off. So once I've done that, I'm going to give this profile. You can either just use selected, like maybe you're just going to use this once for a specific search and probably never again. But if this is something that this is kind of how you want to structure a search, you'll just, I'll just say test paleo and name that. You can give a little description and you can create many of these searches. So you might set up a specific search for your students or something that's media focused or whatnot. So I'm going to say create and use profile. And now you'll see that things that I've toggled on are available here. So you can see my current profile is test paleo. It's showing up in my profiles as an option. And so now it's mirrored exactly what I wanted. So you can see my order and family have been added, and you can see that my search results now have the things I've added. So year collected, verbatim, locality. And I'm not going to have any, well, actually, we'll just search my colleagues for paleo collections because I don't have any records. So I'm just going to do this, see if I can do a big search. That might take a long time. Oh, there we go. So 92,000 records. Yeah, so here you can see the tooth part names with the actual indication of this is a part attribute, M1 for the right molar. But just to show you in the summarized results, now I've got all the fields that I've indicated, so I can filter by, year collected if that's important. So just to show you can really, really customize this form however you need. And one thing is that when you download, it's going to be downloading a spreadsheet as displayed in the search results. I'm going to indicate this is a curatorial search. I'll download it, and if we take a look at that spreadsheet, it will have the table formatted as I've arranged it. So you can see this is a fairly limited search, but I could add quite a few more fields to that. One other thing that I wanted to show is that you can also save searches. So, oftentimes if I have someone request, maybe they didn't go to Arctos to look up what we have in the collection and they're just asking, what material do we have from a certain country? I might just choose to do that search myself, especially if people aren't as familiar with Arctos, or it's just something that we get a lot of requests for. So for instance, maybe I want just a search of all of our material that's been CT scanned. I'm gonna do this query. And this wasn't that complicated. I only did 2 parameters, but it's bringing up, 574 records. And what I can do is I can save this search. And so save or archive search. And here I have a couple of options. So if I want this person to be able to have the profile that I was using, which you might do, I might say, I want them to have access to this profile. And I'm just going to name this her CT scans. You don't have to put underscores, I don't believe. And so my options are to save this search or to create an archive. And so saving this search is going to make this a dynamic search. So that means that in the future, if I add 15 CT scans a year for 5 years, that search is always dynamically going to include those newer things that I've added. Whereas an archive is going to archive this exact search with these exact records, and it's not going to, it's going to ignore sort of any new records that are added to the database. So when I save this search, I can copy that link and send that to my researcher. And then you can access and manage saved searches and archives here, which is your profile. So if you go to your profile, you'll see saved searches. So it's going to bring you to this form. And so it's going to just have an archive of all of the searches you've created. And you can always delete those if they're no longer relevant. But these are things that I just go to again and again. Like for instance, this is our first director. So I just kind of have these preloaded and can revisit them, or our NPS material is something that I often query. And then I have a few archives. These are probably just test archives since I didn't name them anything specific, but a really nice feature. And it's really useful, especially if someone's kind of doing a one-off search or maybe isn't going to get down into the weeds in learning how to use Arctos. So I find this is a really useful tool. So I think that's all I wanted to cover for searches, other than I'll just say that, one thing I do want to show actually is, let me get to another search. One thing I want to say about this manage menu is that there's a lot of actions that you can do from this menu, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but often any bulk edits and actions take place through this manage menu. And so essentially, when you do a query, so let's do, so when you do a query, I'm querying all of our least chipmunks. Let's just say I want to, the name got updated or something like that. If I want to manage identifications, it's going to take me to a form where essentially I can apply, a revised scientific name, and it's going to revise all the records I've just queried. So there's lots of bulk actions you can do. So maybe if these all get, they were all in a legacy old accession, I didn't know much information, and now we realize who the donor was. We can, indicate a new accession that we want to move all 907 records to. There's all sorts of different actions one can take. But sometimes, or you can add collector names. You realize someone else was on this expedition, you can add a collector. You can also remove, like, oh, Clarence wasn't on this expedition. You can actually remove that agent name. But one thing with these bulk actions is sometimes it's like you can do as creative of a search as you want, but sometimes you're getting like 907 records, but you all of them are correct except for maybe two. And so the way to remove some records from a search is going to be through that through this customize form. So if I go to customize and I just want to be able to keep or remove rows, I'm going to toggle this on. And so I'll just say use selected. So often, sometimes I'm just doing like one-off things where I'm like, oh, I need kingdom today, but I'm not going to really use it on most of my searches. So I'll just kind of temporarily do this use selected option. And now you'll see that there's this keep remove row. And so you can select and push shift or control to get rid of or keep the records you need. And then there's an option remove selected or keep only selected. So I'm going to remove these selected, and now I have 903 records. And then now I can do that manage action with the exact records that I needed. So that's a nice feature. Yeah, any questions or anything, Michelle, that you want me to highlight?
Very comprehensive. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think you covered all the major functions. Are there any questions?
So that was great for me, Emily. I did want to have you dive in a little more about the eBreaker public alias. I'm assuming that the value of that is that you can create customized searches and save them. Is that the reason you would do that?
No, so let's see if I can. Oh, whoops, sorry. See, I get all clicky. Okay, so here's
Yeah,
my eBreaker public. Um, so when I'm signed in on this one, if you notice my collection list, it's now got everyone
it's
in
comprehensive, yeah.
Arctos.
But I'm assuming that you do that, create this alias because uh, uh, the alternative is to just go in the public portal, correct?
Yeah, so this is essentially me going into the public
But
portal.
so I'm asking, is the value using the second alias that you can then create and save searches that you know you're going to do?
Yes, so you can essentially, when you have a login, you can not only, yes, save searches, you can also download that
Yeah,
data. So if I'm doing, yeah, if I'm doing like a collaborative project with other institutions and I do need their data, or again, I like to spy on other people's records and just see, how do they do it over at MSV or whatever. I use this a lot to look at their records, or often. A lot of times maybe we have a similar agent name and I'm trying to disambiguate like is this the same person or not? So I
yeah,
really want to see their record. So
You
that's
can
when I
think
do
of
it.
it,
But
oh, sorry. I was gonna say, you can also think of it this way. This is Emily's profile account for only viewing data, and
right.
her
mhm,
other account is for actually editing and managing
Working
records.
with, yeah,
Yeah, so this is
yeah,
a
yeah.
really safe way to, just browse and go through all 5.8 million records in Arctos, as
Mhm.
opposed to just the, couple
Yeah.
million that Boulder has.
And so you can see there are the ability to save searches and to
right.
download
Yeah,
data
Yeah,
still. But those tools are highly limited now, right?
yeah,
yeah,
Um, since I'm not an operator,
yeah. So you don't
but
have any
still I get
manage.
access to the
Yeah,
mapping and everything. So
yeah.
yeah.
yeah, that makes
Um,
complete sense. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, good question.
Other than that, I don't have any other questions. It was, same thing. There's an overwhelming amount of information here, but that's a great review for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the customize is really useful because, looking at a big form like this can be overwhelming. So it's really nice to just kind of tailor the screen to whatever it is that you need. And you can even do, multiple profiles if that makes sense too. So
Well, thank you. I'm going to stop the recording now.